session on the outside rein. And I think that the outside rein deserves its very own little lesson here, because the outside rein is so important. And oftentimes riders, especially if you ride in an arena that has even these low fences, or you ride in a ring that has a normal size fence, or you ride in an indoor that has solid walls, what happens is that you get a little bit lazy with both your outside aids, your outside rein and your outside leg, but particularly your outside rein. So you lose your sense of feel on how to be influential with your outside rein, and it is absolutely vital that you use your outside rein, because your outside rein has just so many jobs to do. In fact, I remember many years ago, I was visiting Major Hector Carmona's farm in New Jersey, and I went into his indoor arena, and there was a plaque on the side of the wall that said, "The secret to riding is the outside rein." So I had to think about that for a while, and I thought, why is the secret to riding the outside rein? And then I realized the outside rein has so many functions. It functions as your speed control rein. Remember on the whoa and go session, outside rein, take, give, slows the horse down. It functions as your turning rein. If you're on a circle, your inner aids are your bending aids and your outside aids are your turning aids. With your connecting half halt, you might remember, it's so important to close your two legs and then close that rein of opposition, your outside rein, in order to capture, contain, and recycle all the horse's energy back to the hind legs. So your outside rein is your connecting rein. And then later on, as the horse is more advanced, your outside rein, if you review the session on collection, your outside rein with your short momentary closes of seat, leg, and hand is your collecting rein. So it's your speed control rein, and it's your turning rein, and it's your connecting rein, and it's your collecting rein. So I just want to go over those things briefly, just to show you how many jobs the outside rein has and why it's so important. And then later on we'll do some exercises to help you develop your feel. Feel is a very difficult thing to teach. You have to be able to be put in a position where you can feel what you're doing, so that then you can recreate that feeling. And we want you to be more aware, more alert, more influential with that outside rein. So let's just talk for a moment about using the outside rein as a speed control rein. Now I know that you've already seen this in the exercise, the session on whoa and go, where I said when you close your two legs lightly, that should be asking your horse for an up transition. If you close your inside leg, that should ask the horse for a little more activity in his gait. This is getting back to all our ABCs. And if you close your outside hand in a fist quickly, like you're snatching a fly out of the air, it should tell the horse to slow down. Now, once again, the horse wasn't born knowing what the closed outside hand means, so you have to teach him in the way that horses learn, and that's through association. You link things together in order to teach horses new vocabulary words. So if I wanted Moshi to slow his walk, I would give a little tweak on the outside rein and say either slow or whoa, whatever word that I've used to teach him to slow down in his gait. So, slow, good, and good boy. I always praise him. If you want to shape an animal's behavior, you need to base it on reward. There's all different ways you can reward the horse. You can pet them, you can tell him good boy, you can give him a walk on a long rein, you can give him a piece of sugar or a piece of carrot. I always have sugar in my pocket. Or even if you've had a very short session, if your horse does something extraordinary, you can just finish your ride and go off for a nice hack. So base all of your work on reward, and you'll develop a happy horse, which is, I'm sure, the goal of all riders. So once again, as a speed control aid, my right hand, slow, and good boy. Very good. So that's one of the things that the outside rein does. Now, another thing the outside rein does is it is your turning rein. So many riders turn the horse with the inside rein. Now watch what happens if I just pull on my inside rein and turn Moshi's face to the inside. You see how his body can just drift off in this direction? So you can pull on your horse's face as much as you want in order to turn him, and his body can end up going completely in the other direction. I'll do it here so you can see really easily. So I'm pulling on my inside rein to turn him to the left, but his body is going to the right. That's because it's not the job of your inside rein to turn the horse. It's the job of your outside rein to turn the horse. Remember, the inner aids bend the horse and the outer aids turn the horse. So now I'm going to turn him with my left rein. If I turn his shoulders, which I can only do by using my outside rein, then the rest of his body will follow. Now I'm going to use my right rein to turn his shoulders. I'm going to direct his shoulders to the left with my right rein while I keep the bend with my inside aids. So you have to be clear on the function, the job of each of the aids. The inner aids are your bending aids, but your outer aids are your turning aids. Now as I come towards you, I'm going to do it wrong again. So you can see the difference between what I just did, which was correct, and a rider that uses the inside rein to turn the horse. So when I go on the little circle to the left, I'm going to pull on the left rein. You see his shoulders bulge out to the right, and I'm having a hard time getting him to turn to the left. And now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back this way and do that correctly so that you get to see it right away, the right way. So I define and limit the size of my circle with that outside rein. That's part of turning. And now I'm going to flex left, but I'm going to turn with the right rein. And because I turn this area, the shoulders, the rest of the body follows. So that's another function, two other functions actually, if you want to think about it like that, of the outside rein. One is to limit and define the size and arc of your circle, and the other is to function as your turning rein. Now, as you know from your connecting half halt, I'm going to make Moshi hollow here now, the combination of closing your two legs and closing your outer hand in a fist while you twinkle, twinkle, twinkle on the inside hand for 3 seconds is the aid that you use to put the horse on the bit. So in that case, your outside rein functions as your connecting rein. So I'm going to make him hollow now, and then I'm going to give a 3-second half halt. Add, 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 and allow him to be round. So I close both legs, but the primary aid after I create all that energy is to close the outer hand in the fist. So my outside rein is my connecting rein, another function. My outside rein is also my collecting rein. Remember from the lesson on collecting that when a horse is collected, the center of gravity is shifted toward the hind legs, and the horse loads the hind legs and lowers the hindquarters. Good. And so I signal the piaffe with my stretching up, and my legs come a little behind the girth, but what tells him to stay in place and not advance forward is my good old outside rein. I'm going to do that again in a second. Oh. Good boy, Moshi. Okay, so in a moment, now you've seen a lot of the usages of the outside rein. In that piaffe, not only did I hold him in the collected trot, which is what piaffe is, it's a trot, but I also used it as a turning rein to bring him around a little circle while he was in piaffe. And in a moment, I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do in order to help develop your sense of feel, of having some influence with your outside rein. Here are some fun exercises that you can do in order to develop your feel of the outside rein. You'll notice I now have 2 whips, and the 2 whips aren't for Moshi, they're for me in order to help develop my feeling of the outside rein. And when you do this exercise, what I want you to do is turn the whip a little bit so the butt end of each whip, I'll turn a little bit so you can see the butt end here, is pointed straight ahead, kind of like headlights on a car. And the butt end is pointed straight ahead, and I have the whip over my hip. So the whip is almost like an extension of the rein, and I feel a nice attachment between my hip angle and my horse's mouth. And what I want to feel is that I stabilize the horse in a channel so that his body is absolutely between my legs and my 2 hands. Now, I have a visual reference point and a tactile reference point for that matter, because I can feel the whip on my hips and I can peek down and see that the butt end of the whips are pointed straight ahead. Now, if any number of things happens, for example, if I'm tracking to the right and I see that my left hand comes further forward, look at his neck, my left hand comes further forward than the right hand, then I know I'm abandoning my horse with the outside rein. But if the 2 heads of the whip are at the same place, then I know I'm keeping my 2 reins the same. Also, if I collapse one hand and bring it closer to my body, I'll see that the butt end of the whip is pointed not straight ahead any longer, but is pointed sideways toward the withers of the horse. So this is just a fun exercise that you can use your eyes, and you can use the feel of the whip on your hips to feel that the horse is absolutely between your 2 legs and 2 hands. So while I do these little figure 8s, I'm going to watch that the butt end of my whips are pointed straight ahead, and I can feel the 2 whips on my hips so that the whips are just an extension of the rein, and I ride the horse straight between the channel that I've created with my 2 legs and my 2 hands. And I've had to make a couple little corrections here, but that's how you develop your sense of feel of the horse being in that channel between your 2 legs and 2 reins. And the only way you'll be doing that is having correct influence of your outside rein. Now I want to talk about another seemingly, I'm going to drop one of the whips because I don't need it for this exercise, another seemingly simple exercise, and that's to ride in all 3 gaits on what's called the second track. Now the second track is 1 meter off the rail, and the reason that I want you to ride 1 meter off the rail, whether you're in a corner or along the short side like I am now, or on the long side, is that for some reason the wall psychologically has a little bit of a magnetic pull, and I'll show you what the horse wants to do. The horse wants to get drawn back into the wall. So by making it your goal to stay 1 meter off the rail, it puts you in a position where you have to make some course corrections with your outside rein if you feel your horse wanting to get sucked back into the track, which is only normal, only natural. So it seems like a really simple exercise, but it does force you to not use the wall as your outside rein and develop your feel of using the outside rein. Now, the other reason that we only go 1 meter off the rail is if I were to go like this, if I were to be further away from the rail, it's harder for me to have a visual reference point of whether or not my horse is drifting through the outside rein, because that's a pretty big distance for me to see. So for example, if I started over here and he just drifted maybe 6 inches to the right like that, and I was looking at the wall, it would be hard for me to know that he had drifted to the right. But if I get this close to the wall, like one giant step, if you haven't converted to metric, just remember when you were little and you played hopscotch. So one giant step away from the wall. I can visualize one giant step away from the wall, and that's a pretty easy distance for you to see. Now, once you can do that in the walk, then you want to progressively add complications by doing that in each faster gait. And then you can add even more complications by doing upward and downward transitions on this second track 1 meter off the wall. Good. Tiny course correction there. Whoop, little course correction. Whoops, little course correction. Good, stayed between the reins there. Whoop, little course correction. Good boy. So you can see I had to make some minor course corrections, but if I had been in the track, I wouldn't have been aware that I had to use my outside rein just that little bit to prevent Moshi from falling to the outside. And actually on this last long side, there was one time he fell through my inside rein and I had to make a course correction. But this is a good way for you to develop your feeling of having the horse between the reins, but especially that awareness of the outside rein. Then once you can do that seemingly simple exercise of riding on the second track all the way around in all 3 gaits, and you add the complication of doing transitions up and down, staying in all 3 gaits, staying 1 meter off the rail, then you want to add some more complications. So I'm going to show you 2 more complications with that same idea. I'm going to start on the second track, and I'm going to do a circle. Now, if you have a training level horse, you can do a 19-meter circle if you're in a large arena. If you have a first level horse, you can do like a 10-meter circle. But the point is, when I finish the circle, I'm going to continue down the long side 1 meter off the rail, because the horse's tendency will be that when I finish the circle, he's going to want to enlarge that second half of the circle and drift into the track. Once I've done that, I'm going to do the most difficult second track awareness of the outside rein exercise, if you will. And that's to do a leg yield over to the second track from either the quarter line or the center line over to the second track, and then interrupt that leg yield and continue on a straight line 1 meter off the rail. And you can see why that would be more difficult, because the horse already has sideways motion with his body, so it's only normal for him to want to continue that and get drawn toward the ring. But if you have a good outside rein, you can interrupt that sideways flow of his body and tell him to go straight ahead on the second track. So these are all good rider awareness exercises of your outside rein, but as a byproduct, your horse is going to start going better and better for you. So I'll just start this first one in the walk. I'm on the second track. I'm going to do a small circle using my inside aids as my bending aids, remember, and my outside aids as my turning aids. And I'm making it quite small because I'm just walking. But this is where you really have to be aware of your outside rein, because the horse is going to want to enlarge that part of the circle and end up in the track. And then we're going to do that in the trot once. This is where I need to really use my outside rein. Good. So, and you can also do that in the canter. The point is, not only do you turn the horse onto the circle with the outside rein, but then you make sure that he doesn't get sucked back into the track at the finish of the circle. Now, I'll do this twice in the walk, and then in the trot, I'm going to start a leg yield. And so I already have some sideways motion of my horse, which would encourage him to keep going and end up in the track. But I interrupt that sideways motion with my outside hand and tell him to stay on the second track. You can see why that would be more complicated than just doing the circle exercise, because we've got two factors working against us. We've got the fact that the horse's body is already going sideways, and we have that invisible psychological magnetic pull of the wall. Let me just change direction and do that once for you the other way. Because you want to know that you can use both of your outside reins equally. So I'm going to turn a little early, start my leg yield, and then use my left rein when I'm 1 meter off the rail to tell him to go straight ahead. And straight ahead. Good boy, Moshi. So there you have it. First of all, understand the importance of the outside rein. It has so many functions. You need to be able to multitask with your outside rein. It's your speed control rein. It's your defining the size of the circle rein. It's your turning rein. It's your connecting rein. And eventually it's your collecting rein. And now you have some fun exercises that you can do in order to develop your sense of feel of the outside rein so you can be just that much more effective.